Good morning, everybody. It's Ed Lyon here. I am in the gardens this morning. It's Saturday morning. You'll notice I'm not in protective gear, but there is nobody around. It's almost eerie in its beauty when there are no other people here. Taylor has been asking us to do some videos for volunteers, and we've been putting together videos for members and our public showing the things that you might be missing if you can't come into the gardens. One of the things that I thought I would show you is something no one can still yet see because it's a construction site and you would not be allowed in, and that is our Sycamore Falls project. That project has been going tremendously slow, and there's been a number of things that have held it up, so we're at least a year behind. But this is not going to be about the problems and issues. It's going to be about the fact that we're finally making tremendous project. And I thought I would walk you through the site, something that you couldn't do even if there weren't restrictions. So let's take a look and see what's happening now. This will be a very non-professional video. You probably already heard a truck go by, but we're going to start where the visitor would start as they walk into the garden once it's done. One of my really favorite spots in this garden, one of the things that we put in here that I absolutely love, is the boardwalk. The wires are not pulled tight yet, the cables, they'll still have to be done, but I always love boardwalks. They're such an interesting walk into a space. I also love this curve that you're going to go around, and when everything is fully foliated, you really won't see the entire project. You won't see this garden until you round that curve. So I love that. The tower will be what we call a focal point, and as you round that curve, you're going to see that tower, and it's almost like the element of surprise walking into such an outstanding garden space. So this building will house, on the far end, you can see the alcove there, a family restroom. On the in-between, inside the alcove, is a small supply room. This larger end has a very deep 18-foot pit, and that houses the pumps for the water features. And then right directly in front of that, and I can see my shadow here, I apologize, is this beautiful wall. And then we have a pergola arbor overhang that will have the same wood detail that the tower has. One of the things that's very exciting right now is the fact that we are getting concrete poured. We have been waiting and waiting for this. You'll see that over here, we've already poured one of the sidewalks. That is completed. And then you'll see down here is a lower terrace. There's a total of 3 terraces. And notice how they are forming that. It's being formed so there will be color bands. So the sidewalk is one color, and then the terraces are 2 other colors in banding, sort of subtle, but enough to also give it a beautiful pattern. The sidewalk that is already done is in a color called Coachella sand. That is also the color we used in the hillside garden and the color that we are using in the major sidewalk renovation in the main gardens. We like the look. We really don't want wide gray concrete type walks. We want them to have more of earthy tones, and we're quite pleased with this Coachella sand color. And then again, the terraces will be banded colors, somewhat similar, with some of the banding in aggregate. You'll notice I went by one cutout, and here's the second. These are cutouts for benches, so people can relax and sit and enjoy the beauty of the gardens when they are here. And then the coup de grace, of course, is the tower. And this we are very excited about, in that they are finally making progress with the tower. The tower is custom designed and unique to any other structure in the world. We designed it ourselves. It is based very much on famous architect Ife Jones, particularly the chapels he did. And when I visited at Reiman Gardens, we sort of wanted to bring in some of that very open look. The idea is when you go inside this tower and look up, it'll be looking like you're looking up through some trees with dappled sunlight to the sky. The tower has also been one of the major challenges. If you'll notice, the entire structure curves inward as it goes up. The carpenters that took on the project knew that, and knew that it would take master carpenters to cut wood, but even they didn't realize how difficult that was going to be until they got into the process. It turns out that every single piece of wood that they are cutting has to be special cut to that particular spot. I think they are figuring it out, because suddenly we are starting to see a lot more progress going upward with the wood on the tower. So we will have a structure when we are done that is not only unique to anything else in the country or world, but it also took master craftsmen to put together. So the lighting will probably be bad on my approach here, but I do want to take you up to the tower. There will be eventually a sidewalk here, and this is where our visitor will approach. It's still fairly messy here, as you can imagine. We can't do anything yet about building the terrace because they are working on the wood. But this entire area will be a lovely terrace. The tower is not one that you can climb up into. That's not the idea, and we'd have to have an elevator in it if that were the case. The idea here is we have a lovely terrace. We could put a small instrumental music group, we could put a bar, we could put things of that nature in underneath the terrace and have a small, lovely kind of a event in this area. So here it's kind of nice if it comes out like it's looking on my camera. You can see the beautiful interlacing and the pattern of the woodwork on the structure. So why is the steel on the outside and the wood on the inside, you might ask? We like to have our gardens have some consistency. And if you have noticed, our butterfly wing and our conservatory are built in an unusual fashion in that the steel is on the outside and the glass on the inside. So we use that same idea, reflecting that out here on the other end of the gardens in Sycamore Falls. But I think this is helping to show you the idea that we were after. Look at how you're looking up through, like you could possibly be looking up through foliage, sun dappling its way down through to an opening to the sky, much like you would expect to see in a forest. When this is completed, I think I will be extremely happy that this whole idea and concept works the way that it does. So right now this isn't the prettiest of views, but this will be a sidewalk that will come out and loop around quite a ways because it's going to have to be 5% slope for accessibility. It will loop downward and around and then come through where you see those forms. So this slope and embankment in between the loop of the sidewalk will be a meadow. Because we'll have some steepness. There will be some rock accents in it as well, but it will be a meadow. There is no concentration of any large quantities of lawn or turf in this garden. It's all about teaching people sustainability issues like the meadow and providing lots and lots of beauty with all kinds of flowering perennials, trees, and shrubs. Here you can see a different view of the forms for the terrace immediately below the tower. And then you'll see that impression in the wall. That is the water wall. Up above is where you saw that little pool. And then the water will come straight down the wall and into a pool here. That will be one whole separate pump. But as I mentioned before, the idea is to make it look like that water is then traveling underneath the terrace and then appearing and bubbling up and out at the head of the stream. But that is actually a whole separate pump that will run that operation. So this will be the view from the tower terrace, which is, I believe, as I recall, a good at least 9 feet taller than the terrace below. And when you're up here, there will be a water feature that starts right here. That water will run over the wall that you see and drop straight down. I'll show you that later. You can see they're forming for the second terrace, the third again being the one under the tower itself. And then that water will look like it's going underneath the sidewalk and then pick up at the top of that stream and go all the way down the stream. You can see one big drop that it's going to go over, and then it will end up down in the reflecting pool. So the water makes quite the process. Here is another view of that directly underneath the tower. So I'm going to try to do this. There we go. So you can see the water is going to start here. It goes down this stream that has plants all around it. Those beds that you see will be heavily planted and beautiful ornamentals. And then it ends up down in the reflecting pool. The idea is that there is water that has both sound and is still and reflective. So if you start up at the tower, you are going to start with the water coming down the wall and entering into a stream. So it's making a lovely, pleasant sound that you can stand next to or sit next to and enjoy. But by the time you get down to the reflecting pool, it'll end up in the reflecting pool, and then you can sit there for more quiet, meditative appreciation of the beauty around you. And we'll get one more view here of the tower as it will appear head on with the water wall. I'm standing right in the middle of the stream, so you can get a good idea of what that will look like. One of the things I have loved about the design of the tower right from the start is that 3 of the supporting legs are on one terrace and the other 3 are straddling on the upper terrace. I think it gives it a really interesting and unique look. The stream was an interesting process because the contractor, and most of the elements of this project are done by different professional subcontractors. The contractor doing the stream had never built one before. Rather surprising to me, but I had to spend a number of days coming out and helping them determine where to place boulders. So that was an interesting project, but I do think that once you see it filled in with soil and plants around it, you will look at this and it will be a believable looking stream. There will be a lot of water coming down through this water feature. So let's take a walk back down the one completed sidewalk. This wraps around on the east side. I think maybe you saw when I was pointing down over that direction, there will be one that looks just like it, mirrors it over on the west side, and that will come up and connect also to this lower terrace. So you can essentially take this oval loop around the garden space, as well as some additional side paths here and there. You have no idea how excited we are to finally see these walks go in. The reflecting pool still has to have a spray-on liner, and it will be black. Something that a lot of public gardens will do. One is it helps with algae growth, and the other is it gives the perception of depth. So we don't want it overly deep, because then it becomes a danger if people get into it. But at the same time, we want it to have the appearance of depth, because that helps with the whole idea of being quiet and reflective. And once again, this will look a lot different once they get the wood up on that pergola. Right now, just in the steel, it looks very stark. But I think you'll see once the wood goes on it, it will soften it up and make it look lovely, just like the tower. And again, that wonderful, very long boardwalk that will be a great experience on the way out, just as it was when you were coming in. So let's take a walk out. I'm glad that you joined me this morning. I hope that you enjoyed this preview of what's to come. We've been waiting a very long time in order to be able to show you some real progress, and I'm pleased to do that this morning. Once again, it is far from a professional video. I'm trying to walk and talk and think at the same time, but I do appreciate your taking the time to walk through our absolutely outstanding Sycamore Falls project with me this morning.